Good day to all my subscribers, and I love you all, everyone. Today is a new day, and I would like to talk about scrap exploitation business. For those that want to go into the business or they want to start, you can also learn from this video. Now, I want to understand the stage of this business. I want to understand the basics of scrap business. So, I'm going to start now. Let's get the first list. What is scrap exportation? Before we define that, we want to ask a question first. What is scrap? Scrap refers to leftover or discarded materials from manufacturing, construction, households, or technology. These materials are no longer useful in their original form, but they are valuable for recycling and reuse. Examples: we have discarded copper wires from old electrical systems. We also have crushed aluminum cans. We have plastic bottles collected from streets or dumps. We also have outdated laptops and phones. Instead of throwing them away, industries process and repurpose scrap into new products. That's the core idea of the recycling economy. So if I may ask you now, what is scrap exportation? Scrap exportation is the business of collecting, sorting, preparing, and shipping scrap materials from one country, usually where they are seen as waste, to another country, usually industrialized, where they are used as raw materials. So when you are into the scrap exportation business, you are acting as a bridge between waste and wealth, helping one country offload materials they no longer need and helping another meet its raw material demand. Now, the next question: why is scrap exportation a powerful business? Let's put it in perspective. One, it is sustainable. That is sustainability. Recycling scrap reduces pollution, landfill use, and energy consumption. It's also profitable. That is profitability. Many exporters earn millions of naira or thousands of dollars per shipment. They also have a global trade. The demand for scrap is growing as global industries move toward eco-friendly production. Then we have low entry barrier. You don't need millions to start. What you need is knowledge, networking, and consistency. So knowledge, networking, and consistency are more important than capital. Let's look at the real life global demand. Industries in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East rely heavily on imported scrap. These countries either lack raw materials or choose scrap because it's cheaper and more eco-friendly. Let's look at the top importing countries. Top scrap importing countries include India. India have a massive steel and metal processing plants. So you need steel and metal processing plants. Then China, they have large plastic and electronics manufacturing industries. Also have Vietnam. Vietnam have a rising demand for plastics and electronic wastes. Then we have Turkey. Turkey buys iron and aluminum scrap. Let's get some examples. India imports over $11 billion worth of scrap metals yearly, and that's a massive opportunity for anyone who can build a reliable supply. Let's look at the common misconceptions of scrap exportation business. One of the misconceptions some people say that scrap is trash. Scrap is trash. But what's the reality? The reality is that no, scrap is not trash. Scrap high, scrap has high industrial value. Another misconception is that some people say that it requires millions to start scrap business. But the reality is that many started as middlemen with no capital. Another misconception of our scrap business is that some people say that only companies can do this. But the reality is that individuals, families, and small teams can succeed. Now let's look at what makes someone successful in this business. What makes someone successful in this business? First, understanding market demand, building buyer relationships, staying consistent and reliable, knowing how to source quality scrap, and registering and doing business legally. So you are not just in a hustle, but you are building a global business. Let's look at the stages. Stage one is checklist. Before we move to the next stage, we have to make sure we understand what scrap exploitation really means, how scrap exploitation connects to global needs, which is waste management plus raw material sourcing, the types of countries that import scrap, why this business can be started from scratch. Now let's go to the next stage, research and planning, building the brain of your scrap exploitation business. Now, success in export is not just about what you send, it's about knowing who needs it, why they need it, and when they need it. Before you ever pick up a sack or speak to a buyer, you need knowledge. Research and planning are the foundation that will protect you from failure, fraud, and wasted time. The next lesson is to know what you can export. Know what you can export. Not every scrap has value or permission. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is assuming that all waste is exportable. The truth is, some materials are restricted, illegal, or economically unviable to export. So, what should you focus on? Let's look at the categories of exportable scrap. Below are the most commonly accepted and profitable types of scrap that you can export. One, we have metal scrap because that's high demand and high profit. Some of the metal scrap we have copper. Copper is found in electrical wires, motors, and old appliances, and it's very valuable. We also have aluminum. Aluminum you can find it in roofing sheets, drink cans, window frames. It's lighter than copper but still valuable. Then we have brass. It's often found in plumbing fixtures. It has a golden yellow tone. Then we have iron and steel. This comes from old machines, building rods, and car parts. It's lower in price but very available. Now let's get the global note. Metal scrap is always in high demand in countries with steel and aluminum factories. Example, India, China, and Turkey. Let's get another category of exportable scrap. That is plastic scrap. Plastic scrap is built and cleaned. That is built and cleaned. When it's built and cleaned, we have PET bottles. PET bottles are clear or colored soft drink bottles. We also have HDP. These are hard plastic containers. Example, detergent bottles and buckets. We also have LDP. These are plastic films, nylon wraps, and so on. Now let's know this important thing about plastic. Buyers want plastic sorted, clean, and build. To build plastic means to compress plastics into blocks. Dirty or mixed plastics are rejected or paid less. Another categories of exportable scrap is electronic waste. They are profitable but sensitive. Electronic waste like computers, motherboards, phones, printers, and batteries. Now, when we are doing this, we have to be cautious. The caution is that this requires certification in some countries due to environmental and health concerns. You must check regulations before you start exporting electronic waste. Now the tip is that if you deal in laptops or phones for parts, especially Apple, HP, Dell, you can resell others. Niche but valuable. Then we also have in rubber. Example are used tires, popular in Pakistan and India. Then we have used batteries, especially car batteries. They can be acidic and may be regulated. Then we have paper or cardboard. These are recyclable but low profit per kilogram, only works in bulk. Now, why does this matter? It matters because if you collect the wrong scrap, you waste transport money, you face customs seizure, and you frustrate or lose buyers. That's why knowing what you can illegally and profitably export is non-negotiable. Now, how do you know what's acceptable for export? How to know what's acceptable for export? One, you have to visit your country's customs website, talk to licensed clearing agents, and ask experienced exporters. You can search for the type of scrap you want to export, the restriction in the scrap in your country. Now, next lesson we look at is to know our market. Know your market. You don't start with what you want to sell. You start with what buyers are already buying. This is where your real business begins. What are the steps? Step one is that who buys scrap? There are three major categories of buyers. One, we have end factories. These are direct buyers. They buy large quantities and process them into new products. Example is a metal recycling plant in India may buy 100 tons of copper scrap monthly. Other categories that buy scraps are agents or brokers. Middlemen in India, China, Vietnam, UAE, the United Arab Emirates, who buy scrap and resell to local factories. They may give better prices, they may help with payment and shipping, and they might be easier to access as a beginner. The other way that buy scraps are the online or international traders. These are buyers who list their needs online. They list their needs online, especially on business-to-business platforms. The next step is where to find these buyers. Where can we find these buyers? Here are the top platforms and channels to research your market. One, we have Alibaba.com. Alibaba is one of the world's largest business-to-business marketplaces. Here's how to use Alibaba.com. Visit Alibaba.com, www.alibaba.com. Search terms like copper scrap buyer, India, PET bottle scrap buyer, aluminum ingot buyer. So when you are looking for the buyers, you should look for verified buyers, trade history, and contact information of the buyers. You can message them with our offer. You can message them with your offer. There are some bonus templates on how to do that. Then on that place you can look for our buyers. We can find buyers is tradekey.com. Tradekey.com is another business-to-business website focused on global trade. You can create an account at www.tradekey.com. You can post our scrap availability. You can search for buyer listings. Now, the professional tip is that check how long the account has existed. The older account is equal to more trusted. Then another place you can find buyers is trade expos and international fairs. These are online or physical events where suppliers and buyers meet. Examples were the China International Recycling Expo, also at the India Scrap Expo, the Dubai Metal Recycling Conference. You can attend even virtually to connect with real people, not just online profiles. Another place we can find buyers is WhatsApp buyer groups and LinkedIn. Surprisingly powerful. You can join groups where scrap dealers network and post offers. Now, how can we find these buyers? You can search Facebook or LinkedIn for Scrap Export Nigeria. You can visit forums like Nairaland. You can ask active exporters to add you to groups. Now, when we are doing such, we should always vet people before sending personal information or samples. The next step is to understand price trends. Just like Forex or crypto, scrap prices fluctuate. Always check current price per ton or per kilogram. Check the price for clean scrap versus mixed scrap. We should always check country specific demand. For example, copper is high in India, but not in United Arab Emirates. You can track price using Alibaba slash trade listings. You can also check, you can use, can track price using export reports. Example, the Nigeria Exporting Promotion Council newsletters. You can also use scrapmonster.com. You can also check WhatsApp updates from regular exporters. Let's look at the real life market scenario. Let's say PET bottle scrap is 19 naira per kilogram locally, and an Indian buyer is offering 20 cents per kilogram, which is approximately 300 naira. If you collect 5 tons or 5,000 kilograms, your potential revenue is 1.5 million naira. After sorting, billing, shipping, and clearing, you might net 300,000 naira to 500,000 naira in profit. The next stage is starting from zero with no capital. How to begin as a middleman and earn without owning scrap. Let's look at the next lesson, starting as a middleman or scrap broker. Now, to be a middleman, you don't need capital to enter this business. Start by connecting local scrap sellers with foreign buyers and earn a commission per ton. What are the step-by-step processes? Step-by-step process. One, we have to find scrap sources. You can look around your area, like your mechanic workshops, construction sites, factories, scrap yards, dump sites. You can ask what kind of scrap they have and the price per kilogram or ton. Next, you can find buyers. You can use platforms like Alibaba.com, Tradekey.com, WhatsApp buyer groups, LinkedIn. You can search for buyers of this specific scrap that we found. Example, copper scrap buyer India. Then you can collect media and information. You can take clear photos and short videos of the scrap that we have. Then you should know the estimated weight. Then you should ask the seller's price. Next, you can pitch to buyers. You can send a short professional message. You can use it as a template. I have 10 tons of aluminium scrap available in Lagos. Clean, sorted, price is $650 per ton, FOB. You can also attach our photos attached. Let me know if interested. Next, you can close the deal and earn. If the buyer agrees, you can earn a commission per ton. Example, 20,000 naira per ton. You can help coordinate the deal or connect both parties securely. Example, 10 tons times 20,000 naira is equals to 200,000 naira profit. Now let's look at the tips and mistakes to avoid. The tips is that always verify scrap before offering. You can use proofs. You can use proof like charts or signed agreements for our commission. We should also respond fast and professionally. Now, mistakes to avoid. You don't quote prices blindly. You don't send seller contacts too early. And we shouldn't lie. We shouldn't lie about quantity or quality. The next stage is building the foundation from hustler to registered exporter. Once you've made your first profit as a middleman, it's time to lay a solid business foundation. This helps you grow, build trust with buyers, and handle bigger deals. The next lesson is what? Register your business. Why register your business? Why should you register? Why register? It makes you look serious and trustworthy. It allows you to open a domiciliary account. It also helps you qualify for exports, licenses, and international deals. What are the steps? For example, in Nigeria now, we want to register a business in Nigeria. What are the steps? First step, 1, register with CAC. Go to cac.gov.ng, cac.gov.ng and register your business name or company. Next is register with NEPC, the Nigerian Exports Promotion Council. Issues the export certificate. Then next is to open a domiciliary account, which is required for receiving foreign currency like US dollars and euros. You can use banks like GT Bank, Access Bank, Zenith Bank. These steps make you a legal, trusted exporter. The next lesson is to get the basic tools. Start gathering the minimum tools to handle scrap properly. What are the minimum tools? We need an essential starter kit. We have digital scale, which is for accurate weight, magnets to sort ferrous from non-ferrous metals, then sacks or containers for packing. They also have gloves and boots for safety. We have our smartphone for communication and media. Then we have truck hire as needed for transport. Then we should start small, should rent when needed, and we should only buy what we can afford. Should buy what you can afford. Now let's get a professional tip. Professional tip: as you grow, invest in tools that save time, like baling machine for plastics, sorting tables, warehouse space. Let's get the summary checklist. Let's get the summary of what we have done so far. It's cost. Which register business register with CAC, the Nigeria Exports Promotion Council export certificate ready, domiciliary account opened, basic scrap handling tools available. When you have all this, you look and work like a professional. The next stage is what? Sourcing and sorting scrap. Where to find scrap and how to prepare it like a professional. Once your business is registered and you have tools, your next task is getting quality scrap and preparing it correctly for export. The next lesson is where to get scrap. Here are the top places to source scrap, both in small and large quantities. We have local sources, which are mechanic workshops. They have wires, batteries, aluminum engine parts. They also have construction sites like iron rods, pipes, aluminum doors, like windows. They have factories, rejected excess materials. We also have dump sites, mixed scrap, good for plastics but needs sorting. They will have load collectors or scavengers. You can buy from them or recruit them. Now this is a tip. Tip is that I should build relationships with regular suppliers, offer fair pay and steady demand. The next lesson is sorting and preparing scrap. Before export, scrap must be cleaned, sorted and packaged correctly. How to sort? Use magnets. When the magnet sticks, it's because of ferrous iron. If it doesn't stick, it's because of non-ferrous, which is copper, aluminum. We should separate the metals by type and quality. We should always clean dirt. We should grease and we should clean the dirt off the materials. We should grease the dirt off the material. We should also remove the liquids off the materials. We should remove unnecessary materials. Example: plastic mixed with copper. Now, how to package? How do you package? How do you package like plastics? To package plastic, you have to build them, tie into tight blocks. Also, how do we package our metals? We can use sacks or drums for compact packaging. Then we can label clearly. Example: copper number 1, 500 kilograms. PET bottles, 1 ton. Well sorted scrap sells faster, gets better prices, and avoids rejection. Now, what are the common mistakes to avoid? We should avoid mixing metals and plastics together. We should also avoid packing wet or dirty items. We should avoid overloading containers without weighing. We should avoid ignoring buyers' specification. Look at the summary checklist, some of what we have discussed so far. Now we already know where to source different types of scrap. We have known how we can identify ferrous versus non-ferrous using the magnets. Now, we've known how to sort and clean all materials for packaging. We have known how to use sacks or baling for easy handling. We also know how to label everything for export readiness. The next stage is the export process, from yard to ship. How to get your scrap out of the country. Now that we have quality scrap and buyers ready, it's time to ship. But export involves paperwork, agents, and logistics. This stage shows how to navigate the export process smoothly. We are looking at the documentation and the logistics. Before you can move anything to the port, you must have the right documents. What are the basic export documents? We have the commercial invoice. Commercial invoice shows what you are selling and at what price. We have the packing list. Packing list lists items and quantities inside the container. We also have the bill of lading. The bill of lading is given by the shipping company when goods are loaded. Then we also have the NEPC export certificate. It confirms you are a licensed exporter in Nigeria. We also have Form NXP. It's applied to your bank. Registers to export, and it registers to export with the central bank. Now let's get this tip. Always double check documents for errors. Customs will delay or seize goods if papers don't match the load. The next lesson is shipping your scrap. What are the step-by-step shipping process? Number one is to load the container properly. If you use fake lifts or manual labor, which is balance load, you can use plastic wrap or straps to secure bills. You can also use you can hire a clearing agent. Clearing agents help handle customs clearance and port procedures. Good agents can save you from costly delays. We should also submit documents to customs. We should present all papers mentioned above and should pay any necessary port charges or fees. Then next, you can track our shipments. Once the container is loaded and the ship departs, we can track it using the bill of lading number. As I said, we can track our shipments. Once the container is loaded and the ship departs, we can track it using the bill of lading number. Those are the mistakes to avoid. First mistake to avoid is incomplete documents. What are the consequences when we have incomplete documents? Shipment may be delayed or returned. Another mistake is wrong product labeling. Consequence is the risk of fines or container seizure. The other mistake is hiring unreliable agents. Consequence that they may cause delays or bribes. Another mistake to avoid is overloading container. Consequences that it can be rejected or incur extra charges. So let's get a summary checklist of what we have discussed. Let's get a summary of what we discussed so far. All export documents are ready and accurate. A licensed clearing agent is hired. Container is loaded and balanced properly. Customs has approved the shipment. Bill of lading and tracking information is secured. The next stage is scaling up from side hustle to full business operation. Now that we have mastered the basics, it's time to grow, which is more scraps, more deals, and more income. This stage focuses on expanding our network, system, and reputation. Next lesson is building buyer relationships. Repeat buyers is equals to consistent income. So we should focus on becoming reliable, not just available. Now, how to keep buyers? How do we keep buyers? We should deliver on what we promise. We should never change materials or quantity last minute. We should respond fast. We should don't leave messages unread. We should send updates like photos, shipment status, and documents. We should be honest. Buyers respect transparency. Buyers respect transparency. A loyal buyer can keep you in business for years. You should treat them like gold. The next lesson is to expand our scrap network. To scale up, we need more scrap and faster sourcing. Now, how do we expand? We can recruit local collectors. We can pay them per kilogram or per delivery. We can also partner with workshops or factories. We should offer steady pickup. We can rent or buy a truck. This helps us control transportation. We can also open mini scrap yards. It lets people drop materials off. More supply equals to more deals, which equals to more money. Look at the scaling mistakes to avoid. One of the mistakes is taking more orders than we can handle. The problem is that we have late delivery and we lost trust. We lose trust from our clients. Another mistake is not checking your sources. What's the problem there? They have low quality scrap. Low quality scrap ruins our name. Then another mistake is growing without documentation. The problem that customs will block us. Look at the summary checklist of what we have discussed so far. We have at least one loyal buyer we deliver to. We source scrap from more than one location. We also consider hiring or training collectors. We build a brand based on trust and results. The next stage is overcoming challenges. How to avoid scams, delays, and costly mistakes. Every export business comes with risk. This stage shows how to protect ourselves from fraud, handle delays, and stay in control even in difficult situations. Next lesson is what? Avoiding scams. What are the common export scams? Fake buyers who request samples and disappear. People asking for upfront payments for non-existent scrap or services. Shady clearing agents who delay our goods or charge illegal fees. Now to stay safe, we should never pay upfront to strangers, especially online. We should use our letter of credit or verified bank transfers. We should research every buyer and agent. We should check company name, reviews, and references. We should use contracts or written agreements for every deal. If a deal feels too good to be true, it probably is. Another lesson is handling port and customs delays. Delays can happen for many reasons. One is missing or incorrect documents, improper packaging or labeling, port congestion or strike, poor handling by agents. Now, how do we reduce delay risk? We should double check all documents. Documents like invoice, NXP, bill of lading, and other documents. We should use trusted clearing agents with export experience. We should also add extra days into our shipping timeline. We should stay in constant contact with our agent and buyer. What are the export mistakes that cost people big? One of the mistakes is sending low quality or mixed scrap. What are the consequences of such? The buyer rejects shipment or cancels deals. Another mistake is missing NXP form or certificate. The consequences are shipments won't leave the country. Another mistake is ignoring buyers' specifications. The consequence is that you might lose that client forever. Another mistake is no proof of payment terms. The consequence is that you might never get paid. So let's look at the summary of what we have discussed so far, summary checklist. 1. Research and verify every buyer and agent. We never pay upfront to strangers. We use secure payment methods like letter of credit or direct bank. We also have a trusted agent handling our clearing. Also, we are prepared for delays and know how to handle them. The next stage is sustaining and growing. How do we sustain and grow in our scrap exportation business? We have to reinvest, reinvent, and build a lasting business. Success isn't just about one big deal, it's about staying in business and growing smarter over time. This stage shows us how to reinvest wisely and build our brand. The next lesson is reinvest your profits. Now, we made money. When we make money, don't blow the money. Grow the money, grow it. So where do we reinvest? Where do we reinvest our profits? We reinvest in better tools. Example, sorting tables, bigger scales, trolleys. We also invest in our billing machines, especially for plastic or PET bottles. We invest in warehouse space for storing and sorting more scrap. We invest in staff or collectors so we can scale without burning out. We also invest in transportation so we can get our own truck or delivery team. Now, investment is equals to higher volume, lower cost, and more control. The next lesson is to build a strong brand. A name plus consistency is equals to trust. We should make people know us, make people know you. Now, how do you build a brand? You can choose a memorable name. Example, Okun Scrap Exporters. You can create a logo and brand identity. You can design or outsource it. You can open a Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram page. You can share before or after videos of our scrap sorting. We can also share testimonials from buyers or agents. We can get export tips to attract others and build. We can share export tips to attract others and build credibility. A strong brand helps us attract bigger buyers, investors, or partners, and local suppliers. Let's get a summary checklist of what we have discussed so far. A summary of what we have discussed. Now we are investing some profit into tools or logistics. We're also building a team or planning to build a team. Our business has a name and identity, and we are posting content and stories to build trust online. We are thinking long term, not just quick money. So these few points of mine are going to convince you and not to confuse you on how you can make money with scrap exploitation in the right way. So I also buy scraps too. I buy aluminium, condemned laptops that are no more good again. Only form of scrap, I buy them. So if you have them, you can reach out to me. +234 9020667343. You can reach out to my email address, Collins Akinshi, Collins COLLINSAKINSC@gmail.com. I will buy them at a better price from you, so that and I sell them too. So see you at the top. Bye. I love you all, my fans.